wrist gang. Now, before we start this video, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, it helps us so much more than you know, and you'd be helping a watch nerd out. And what can I say? I'd love you forever. Diving straight into number one, we have an exciting one. A couple of years ago, IWC released the Engineer, and it came in at 40 millimeters in diameter. And this year at Watches and Wonders, they released a couple of different sizes, a couple of new different sizes. They released a 42 millimeter variant, but they also released a 35 millimeter variant. The 35mm variant of this IWC Engineer comes in a couple of different colors. There's a couple of different styles to choose between. So one, you have a gold with a gold looking dial. Two, my personal favorite, is this kind of silver dial with a stainless steel bracelet and case. And at three, you have a black dial with a stainless steel bracelet and case as well. These watches, interestingly, come in at 35.1 millimeters in diameter, so not just 35, but they're still pretty perfect for my slim wrist gang out there. They come in at 9.4 millimeters in height, have a brand new open case back so that you can see straight through to that movement. They have 10 bars of water resistance, come in stainless steel. They also have a date display. They have glass on the front that is secured by displacement via a drop in cabin pressure. Now, essentially what that means is when you're flying very high and come down very low, sometimes what can happen is the glass can pop out of your watch. But because IWC always has kind of pilot's DNA running through them, they've secured against this. Now, will you ever be in that circumstance to test it out? Probably not, but the fact that it can do it is pretty cool. The movement in this model that you can see through the open case back is the caliber 47110. This is fully automatic, has 42 hours of power and beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH. To tell you the truth, guys, when I tried this watch on at Watches and Wonders, my first inclination was it's going to be far too small. It goes past the slim wrist gang out of us gentlemen and goes to a lady's watch. But actually, when I got it on the wrist, it wore beautifully, especially the gold, but more specifically, I think in terms of my personal favorite was the stainless steel with the silver dial. I thought it just looked absolutely unbelievable. This IWC model comes in at £8,900, and that's number one. So let's move on to two, because that's what comes after one. Next on the list at number two, we have a combination of two watches from the same brand. I feel like the launch of the Land Dweller kind of dominated the scene, but there was a watch that flew below the radar at Watches and Wonders that is perfect for slim wrist gangs and also just looks so sexy. This is the Rolex 1908. This model comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 9.5 millimeters in thickness, so it's absolutely beautifully thin. And I feel like this thinness adds a lot to the character of this watch. It makes it look more dressy and also more appealing for slimmer wrists. I do feel like the closer the watch sits to the wrist, the more of an appeal it has to people with slimmer wrists. This model comes in 18 karat yellow gold, so it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. I mean, it comes in at around about £30,600. The caseback is domed and transparent with anti-reflective coating so that you can see into the movement. And it's also waterproof to 50 meters. The movement in this model is the perpetual mechanical self-winding 7140 manufacturer by Rolex. It's accurate to -2 to +2 seconds a day. It has a bidirectional self-winding rotor, and it also has a power reserve of approximately 66 hours. I just feel like the 1908 was kind of overshadowed by the hype around the Land Dweller, and I can see why. The Land Dweller, to me, is pretty awesome. But it shouldn't have been overshadowed, I don't think, as much as it was, because I think it is absolutely incredible. And that kind of nicely brings me on to the combined number two, which is the Rolex Land Dweller. The new Rolex Land Dweller is coming at 36 millimeters in diameter or 40 millimeters in diameter. Both of these models have a case thickness of 9.6 millimeters. So they're beautifully thin. They sit really nice and close to the wrist. And I would argue that even the 40 millimeters, the bigger one, would still fit slimmer wrists. To give you guys a kind of gauge, I have 6.5-inch wrists. I gravitated more towards the 40, if I'm totally honest. But I do think that the 36 still probably would have suited. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Land Dweller just because I think it's more of an honorable mention rather than a watch that's actually made this list. But it is epic, and I do think the 36mm or the 40mm would be perfect for slim wrists. Oh yeah, and the Land Dweller comes in at roughly £13,050. Now that watch is pretty expensive, but it is pretty awesome. But the watch that we've got coming up last, honestly, you guys are going to want to stick around for that because it's pretty awesome. The next watch on the list is from Raymond Vale. At number 3, we have Raymond Vale, another underrated brand that produce pretty incredible watches. Now, Raymond Vale really exploded onto the scene for me when they released the original Millisime, and that actually won the GPHG Awards, which is like the Oscars for watches. It's basically a recognition. Is that a word? It's recognizing the accomplishments of a brand. It's saying that this watch is pretty damn awesome. So they awarded the GPHG Awards to the Millisime, and since then the range has kind of expanded because of the popularity. And this year at Watches and Wonders, they released this. This is the Millisime that comes in at 35mm in diameter. It comes in at 10.25mm in thickness, comes in stainless steel, has a leather strap and a fully automatic movement. The movement in this model is the mechanical self-winding RW4251 with 41 hours of power. Now remember that there is a little bit more thickness added because it has more of a glass box design, and that gives it more of a vintage flair. Now, I tried this on at Watches and Wonders, and I was pleasantly surprised at how I took it. It was honestly really, really nice. And I think Raymond Vale are such an underrated brand. Let me know in the comments what you think here, but I don't know why more people don't talk about them. It's a little bit like Certina. I feel like Certina and Raymond Vale are my babies that I'm trying to like promote as much as possible because people just don't understand how amazing they are. Now, there are a couple of different variations of this model that you can choose between, but specifically, I would go for the one with the grey dial with the green accents. I think that's stunning. And this watch comes in at £1,775. Next on the list is a watch that you guys might kill me for. You might kill me for it, but you can't deny that it looks pretty awesome on a slimmer wrist. This is the brand new Tag Heuer Formula 1 Solargraph. This is a watch model that everybody kind of knew was coming, but it still took us by surprise in a weird way. I mean, before this watch actually came out, Tag started to sponsor the F1. They replaced Rolex and sponsored the F1, which is incredible, which is really cool to see. But they released watch clocks kind of on the F1 track that looked identical to this watch. So we all kind of knew it was coming, but it still was a pretty exciting launch. This watch comes in at 38mm in diameter, hitting that Goldilocks size for most of us watch collectors, and it comes in at 9.9mm in thickness. And that thickness is kind of complemented or not as thick because of the Solargraph movement. Now, a Solargraph movement is essentially a quartz movement, but it charges from any form of light. So it will charge from studio lighting or from, lighting in your house, wherever you might be, or outside in the sun or even cloud. Now, without getting too much into the detail, because I will be here all day, there are so many different variants of this watch to choose between. Now, I've actually made a whole video on the Tag Heuer Solargraph, and I've actually made my point as to why I don't think it's overpriced. A lot of people were coming to me and saying it's overpriced, it's overpriced, it's overpriced, but my argument was, when you look at the hundreds of millions of pounds that it's taken to curate the Tag Heuer brand, actually, I don't think it's as overpriced as people might be thinking. But I've done a whole segment on that in another video, so I'll link that down below or whatever for you. So have a look at that. Let me know what you think, because I know it's kind of a hot topic. But I do think this looks brilliant on slimmer wrists. It comes in at £1,650. Now, that is for the stainless steel version, so there's different options, but that's kind of a rough gauge. Right, next on the list, we have the Breitling Top Time B31. Honestly, this is, in my opinion, one of the best releases this year from Breitling, if not in the watch industry. I was kind of infatuated by this watch, specifically the white dial with the baby blue kind of flange around it. It's really cool. This model comes in at 38mm in diameter. It comes in at 10.3mm in thickness, has a fully open case back so that you can see into that beautiful Breitling B31 manufacturer movement, which is totally self-winding, has 78 hours of power. It comes in full stainless steel. You do have a choice between a leather strap or a bracelet on all the color variations. So you have a dark blue, you have a dark green, then you have a white, and all of these variations have different combinations that you can kind of choose between. I thought this was an interesting release from Breitling for a couple of different reasons, but one in particular. Breitling have an affiliation, they have historical roots to planes, to pilots, and that is what the Navitimer is. It was a instrument used by pilots. And you can see this replicated in a lot of their watches. A lot of their watches are quite complex. They're real works of art. But this is one of the first watches that I can think of where they've really stripped everything back. They've simplified it. They've made it a Goldilocks size with a Goldilocks complication. Literally all it has is a date window. And it just looks the part. It looks stylish. It looks simplistic. It doesn't scream too loud, but it still draws the eye. It's just... I think this is a real staple, and I think it will be a real staple in Breitling's arsenal. The one thing I'm not sure about, however, is the Cyclops eye. That's the one thing I'm not sure about. Let me know what you think on that one. I don't know. This model with the leather strap comes in at £4,550. Next on the list, at number 6, I think we're on number 6. I am dyslexic, but I think we're on number 6. This is the Tissot PRC 100, another Solargraph watch that I would argue is the best affordable alternative to the Tag Heuer Aquaracer Solargraph. But that's my personal preference. This watch comes in a couple of different variations. It comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 9.22 millimeters in thickness. Yes, you heard me right. It's beautifully thin. It has a 20 millimeter lug width. It has 100 meters of water resistance, comes in 316L stainless steel, and has, again, a Solargraph movement. Now, when you look really closely at this watch, and this is something that I didn't notice until I spent quality time with it, but if you look really closely, you can actually begin to see the solar cells. It has almost like a honeycomb pattern running through it, a really tightly knitted honeycomb pattern running through it. And that, what you're looking at, is literally the solar cells of the watch. And I think that is fascinating. I think this watch is quite simplistic. It is quite stripped back, and I would like to see more spice added over the years when they develop this range. But I think it's a great start, and I also think it's great for slimmer wrists, and also it's a pretty great price point. It comes in at £450. And remember, you do get a ton of variation when it comes to this watch. It isn't just the blue dial and steel. You do get a black and a couple of others. Next on the list, we have a personal favorite. It's not quite as good as the End watch that we're going to cover in the next watch, but it is a personal favorite. I've always been a fan of the Hamilton khaki field. I think it's a staple in the industry. It's an absolute staple in the entirety of the watch industry, not just in Hamilton's range. But this is a new, pretty funky extension to that range. This is the Hamilton khaki field quartz. This model comes in at 38 millimeters in diameter, 8.3 millimeters in thickness. And yes, I'll repeat that because it's kind of insane. 8.3 millimeters in thickness. And that sits beautifully close to the wrist. It comes in full stainless steel, and it's sand-blasted stainless steel, and it also has a NATO strap because it is an explorer's watch. It is a military-inspired, military-feeling watch. This watch is something that's designed to be in the field. It's designed to be battered, bruised, and live through everything, and I really, really like that. What I like more than that, though, and this is a really kind of odd watch nerdy detail, is the fact that on the dial at the 6 o'clock mark, or just above the 6 o'clock mark, they've put the bold white text khaki. And I actually think that's a really nice touch to this watch. I understand that could be like Marmite to a lot of people, but I really like it. Now, there are a ton of variations as per usual of this watch, and it also comes in at 33 millimeters in diameter, but I would probably go with the 38. I think 33 is maybe a little bit too small, even for us slim-wristed people. This watch comes in at £375. And on that note, it's actually a watch that I want to dive a little deeper on. I think I'm going to do a standalone video on this watch, comparing it to the mechanical khaki field and also the Expedition Automatic. I think that'd be a pretty cool comparison and video to do. But let me know in the comments what you think on that one, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see it. Up next, we have possibly the highlight of this video. I remember like 5 years ago, the Black Bay 58 was released, and everybody lost their minds. Everybody went absolutely crazy because it was the most beautiful, simplistic, stripped down, awesome watch that Tudor have released up until that point. And since then, they've kind of kept expanding the range slowly but surely, as Tudor does. And this year at Watches and Wonders, they released this. This is the brand new Black Bay 58 in burgundy. And I actually have a Tudor Black Bay Heritage in burgundy, and honestly, maybe I'm biased, but I think this is such a cool release. Not quite as good as the Black Bay Opaline dial, the Black Bay Pro Opaline dial, because that is probably going to be my next watch, if I'm totally honest, but it was definitely a highlight for slimmer wristed people. This watch comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.7 millimeters in thickness. It has the caliber MT5400-U, which is COSC and METAS certified movement, and it has 65 hours of power. It's also waterproof to 200 meters and carries a lot of the same DNA, the same styling that we see on the previous Black Bay 58s. Really, it's changed its coat, it's changed its clothing. It is coming in a brand new style with that bright burgundy color. Now, the renders online don't do this watch quite as much justice as I would say in person does. It definitely is a lot darker in person, a lot more muted. It looks a bit too bright in kind of online, but it is that little bit more dark. I just absolutely love how this watch fits, feels and looks, and I definitely think it's one of the highlights of this list. It comes in at £3,820. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button to join us on our next giveaway, which is coming very, very soon, or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelens, or the podcast, the Into the Mind podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon.